Absolute Power Ground Zero issue 1. Various creators. We'll talk about them as we go through because it's split into 3 stories. I will say I was a little saddened when I started this and realized that the Wade story was actually Wade and Zarsky co-writing a story, and I was like, wait a minute. Wade, who is the name that I was the most excited for in this book, is only co-writing one of the stories. That put me in a bit of a downer right away.
I believe Wade co-wrote all of the stories because he's also on the Dreamer story. It says by Wade and Maines.
You know what? I never even noticed it because his name wasn't first. You're right.
Yep. And then I believe the Williamson one is just him, I think. Let me double check.
Yeah, the Williamson one's just him, I think.
Yeah. I'm just going to the credit page. Yes. So yeah. Look, I like that Maines is able to write this character of Dreamer, but I've gotten way too much Dreamer in the last couple. And I'm not sure what exactly I know she does stuff with dreams, but I'm so unfamiliar with the character that when she does something here with like dream energy, I'm like, what is going on? You know? So, but that's not saying me, but it's just weird how it seems how crucial Dreamer is going to be in this storyline.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird thing because I'm not that interested in the character enough to go read whatever one shot or mini. I think Dream Team's got an editor's note in this say, hey, this happened in Dream Team issue 1 or whatever. So it's kind of strange. I also think it's a weird story to start this off on, but what's so funny about it is that the entire setup of this Dreamer part of the story or the event is that Amanda Waller is forcing her to work for her, right? And we find out in the opening story here that Jay, as in John Kent's, John Kent's boyfriend, he is on the run from some soldiers or from Suicide Squad even, and we find out that his mother was assassinated, and I'm like, wait, what? That happened? Okay, all right. I mean, that's kind of. I mean, maybe it was in this other book, and that's fine. But for me, this is relatively out of nowhere.
They keep pointing out too that Amanda Waller has taken over Gamora, the island. That was pretty crucial in that John Kent series.
Yeah, the country. The country that Jay's mom was the president of.
Yep. And so here, I just thought, she's, we see her falling out of the window, and then later in the book, we're like, she's like, and they killed my mom. And I was like, so we're going that far now.
I mean, even in the panel in the first page with it going out the window, I went, wait, is that implying she died? I think it is. And then later on, obviously, the narration box actually just says, they killed my mom.
But I was like, man, all the work that they did to re-put her in there, and Waller just said, nah. So I do like seeing Jay pop up. I hope, that was one of the things with the whole concept of the Truth website, right? And putting stuff into the light and wanting to kind of be this new age Lois Lane. I like that. And we've kind of lost him since the John book is no longer, is not around. So I'm glad that Wade and Maines decided to make him a central character. It seems like, at least in the story.
Yeah, I just think it would have felt like a much more shocking thing for this first story to set up this event if it had been the story of her being assassinated, because it feels like such a big thing for me to find out in the past tense, like, by the way, this happened, and we're instead following this Jay part of the story. I just think that, well, I assume it happened in this Dream Team book. I think that's maybe what the editor's note was about. I just feel like if you actually started this prelude to the event with that, I'd be like, shit, that's a character that the entire Superboy or Superman John Kent miniseries spent building up, was a big part of that. Everything in that story was about reinstating her and saving her from the villains that were taking over the country.
From Bendix, not Bendis.
Very good, man. We're all very thrilled with your memory, okay? Right? I just feel like if that was the start of this, I would have been like, that's kind of shocking they did that. That feels like a big deal that they've killed her. But by starting after she's been killed and having the character just reference it, I just went, wait, what? That happened? That feels like you just threw her away. Like, why is it not?
Yep.
Why is that not in the event or in this? I guess issue 0 prelude to the event as it is.
Yep.
It just felt like it kind of wasted it in a weird way.
Yeah. Well, and I trust Wade, but that's what I'm starting to feel with this absolute power. Like a lot of this stuff that we're getting to, and we'll get to when we talk to Superman later. I feel a lot of these stories are rushing to conclusions to start absolute power. And then it's also absolute power is picking up those threads for whatever reason. And so I'm feeling like here we rushed through this entire Gamora thing because, again, maybe it is happening in Dream Team. We're not reading that book. So, but I just feel like stuff's happening very quickly to set up the status quo that's going to be in the event. And that's not very fulfilling storytelling for me, you know?
Yeah, I mean, the last prelude we got for this that set up what Waller was up to, I thought was solid, and that was just Wade writing that, and I think that was fine. I'm not like nothing I'm saying here is making me even remotely concerned for enjoying the actual event, because the actual event I expect I'm going to like because Mark Wade's writing it.
And Dan Moore is drawing it.
Yeah,
so it'll just be pretty.
I have no hesitation or like negative feelings going into the actual event book itself. I just feel like this prelude and the things that the way it's like formatted this, and maybe it's just down to the fact that DC wanted this other miniseries going on, so they put this big assassination in there.
Yeah.
But just finding out in the past tense that Jay's mum has already been killed just made it feel like she was a nothing character that was thrown away, and it makes it feel smaller than it actually should. So
yeah,
you know, I think that should have been in here. That should have been part of the story here if you were going to put it here. Otherwise, all you're really setting up in this book is that Jay finds out that Dreamer was part of the team that killed his mom and now hates her, and now Dreamer is feeling all, you know, conflicted about that, but she's forced into it because all her loved ones are being threatened by Waller, and at the end has this sort of look in her eyes that suggests that she's planning to like resist Waller in some way, but obviously the time's not right yet. But it was kind of strange because I feel like whenever you get to a story where like the main characters had to have done something really bad, and the other character that they care about finds out and like then hates them because, oh, you had a part in the death of my mother in this case, but it could be, you know, anything. Normally, we're so in with the main character by that point that we can sort of like feel this sense of sympathy, and we can really be in their shoes. But again, because the assassination of Jay's mom didn't happen in this story, it happened in some other series we're not reading, I can't feel that feeling. I don't know what the build up to. I don't know how Waller's manipulated Dreamer into doing this. I don't know like all the ways that Dreamer tried to resist, but then ultimately it was all futile and she felt she was pushed into a corner where she had to help. Or what her reaction was when she presumably didn't know it was going to be an assassination and then found out when the murder actually happened. Oh shit, I've just helped with an assassination and I know who Jay is. Like, those moments would mean a lot to like building up this sense of Gil and like this understanding that she was in a place that she couldn't do anything else, and we could feel something for that. But because most of that wasn't in this story, I felt this weird just disconnection from it where Jay now hates this other character who's recurring. So he's just all in this ultra dark, like really depressing place. And Dreamer's in this ultra dark, depressing place, and I just don't feel like I've gotten a story for either of them where I've had a chance to build up to it, where I can really feel like I'm engrossed in it. Instead, it just kind of feels like, okay, you've set these pieces up for the event, but like, I'm not feeling much of anything here. I don't know. It's tough to pull the story that it's trying to tell here, or particularly the character dynamic that it's trying to pull off here with Dreamer. It does feel like, yeah, the whatever miniseries they're in right now seems essential to actually caring, but unfortunately I just had no interest in reading that because, well, I don't think Nicole Main's writing is bad. It doesn't excite me either. So I've left feeling ambivalent towards this first chapter. How did you feel about it overall?
A lot of the same feelings. Again, I like seeing Jay show up and, you know, the Dreamer being at odds with all this, and then you find out that the whole, you know, Waller uses people. That's what she does, but she's not going to let, you know, that's all very typical. That's a very Suicide Squad, you know, that's not every Suicide Squad story, but it's what I expect in those. So just kicking this off like that did not endear me to what's going on here. And it's mostly because again, I don't care about Dreamer that much. Like, I forgot that we were first introduced to Dreamer in the pages of the John Kent book, right? And that's why Jay's familiar with her.
Yeah, I didn't remember that either.
Yeah,
That
there's
first.
an editor's note in here, about, when she showed up at the Fortress of Solitude and whatnot. So, yeah, but like it's fine. I again, including Jay here, and for what he represents about, raging against the machine and whatnot. It's not that he'll be a foil for Waller, but him being involved even in the slightest adds a little bit of an edge to that. So
so weird starting off point. And I get that it's a weird complaint in some respects because comic books have always done this where maybe you'll feel left out of certain plot details because you weren't enjoying or reading the other book that some of these major events happened in. But it did leave me off in a weird place to start off, especially since it was the first story in this book. If this had been third, maybe it wouldn't have bothered me so much, but I felt like it alienated me right away with this. The second story is called Stage 2. It's the Chip Zdarsky and Mark Waid co-written story. Zdarsky's here because it loosely relates to Failsafe, but it's actually about how Amanda Waller has resurrected Time Commander with his magic hourglass. And this one worked better for me because it was more of a story from start to finish where, okay, we introduced us to this character. And I barely know Time Commander. This is not someone I know.
No, it said that he died in Urban Legends 23, which that book's been done for a minute, right?
Yeah. So, no idea who this guy is really. But it didn't really matter because, okay, we set up that he's got this time thing, but she wants him to use his magic hourglass to repair Failsafe because Failsafe's been defeated and she wants to use it for her own goals. We know that this is going to happen because we've seen Failsafe and some of the other things leading up to the event. So he basically stalls and tries to figure out a way to do something, right? And he doesn't want to go through with it because he looks into the hourglass and sees what Amanda Waller's future is and what her goals are, and he's shocked and horrified. So I thought that did a good job of teasing okay, what she's up to is devious and it's going to be shocking if she goes through with it. So he can't help her. So he ultimately tries to trick his guard to take him to the storage room for all the tools because he needs some stuff. And he tries to fight his way out. He tries to build a weapon and get his hourglass to time travel somewhere else, right? To teleport out of the place. But the little trick ending here, your sort of Twilight Zone style ending, is that he teleports back into his cell, and then Amanda Waller comes in as a TV shows a live feed of him talking to Waller the day that she started him on this job. And she comes walking in with the same cup of coffee and says, okay, I was just done talking to the past version of yourself. We basically rigged all your tech so that you would only teleport back to here. So now your week starts again. You're going to keep working on this until it's done. And yes, that's it.
We're on to you, time travelers. I like that. This was very much an Amanda Waller. That made me chuckle. Her waiting right there, going from one room to the other. Yeah. And I thought that was funny.
It was a fun twist. It was obviously very cruel from Waller. And it, again, this is kind of what I was getting at with not feeling that sense of Dreamer had no choice in being involved in Jay's mum's death. Is that here, this set up why this character has no choice. Because he does his best to escape and it loops him back round. Waller's thought of everything. Shit, I have to actually finish this to get away.
And it also showed that Waller's changing up her stuff as well because she said that they didn't even know his hourglass worked on dead bodies. And that's now why they're going to try it on the robot, on the android. So it's well, what else is she playing with, right? Now, because it seems this could be, chronal energies, science fiction-y stuff, but also is it doesn't rule out magic on top of that as well.
Yeah. The other thing, of course, that I think makes this work as well is just that in this character's narration, we get him, when he fixes Failsafe, his narration reads, God forgive me. So unlike Dreamer in the first story, we really get a sense that he is horrified at what he's been a part of. So I do think a lot of this goes a long way to making the story work. Also, Waller wants him to work on a bunch of Amazo-looking robots.
So this is what I'm guessing has to do with, we'll have the failsafe Batman, but I have a feeling these are the replacement heroes that we've heard about in like those not miniseries, but the one shots.
Yeah, the tie-ins,
right?
yeah.
The tie-ins that are coming out. So I'm wondering if this army of Amazos, they're going to get more specified going forward. This one was a lot more, I don't want to say fulfilling again, but it was a lot more, this is what I was expecting in an issue like this.
It explained the detail in a fun little story with a twist that also, again, built up the idea that, oh, Waller's doing something really bad. Whatever she's trying to do in this event, it's a big deal. It sold you on that. So, yeah, I think this middle story was a much better story out of the two we've talked about so far.
Yep.
The third story, called Stage 3, is Joshua Williamson with Gleb Melnikov, on art. And this is actually, I read this first, right, which is a bit awkward because it kind of follows on from the two Superman issues, but regardless, it basically mirrors Superman's ship leaving Krypton, but it's a small ship leaving the Brainiac ship as it explodes, and it's actually the Brainiac Queen landing on Earth, but she is an empty husk. She doesn't have like...
she's an empty vessel. Yeah.
So Failsafe's there with Waller for this landing, and Amanda Waller wants to like turn her into one of hers. So the chunk of this last story, which I thought was quite compelling, is that basically they program into Brainiac Queen a childhood and like a history. So Brainiac Queen remembers being a child, even though she never was a child, but she remembers Amanda Waller as her mother, and we see like just all these like quick examples of Amanda Waller explaining that aliens are bad, that metahumans are bad, that these superheroes are dangerous. She has Superman looking like a villain, and she fires a kryptonite gun at him. And it's all just to show and train and brainwash this Brainiac Queen into thinking it's a loyal child to Amanda Waller. So it's fun.
So this is the most compelling the Brainiac Queen had been.
Yes, this is the thing. This made me forget that stupid like ultra like monster form she had. So when I started reading Action after this, and I saw the big like bulky version, I went, "Oh God, yeah, I forgot about this stupid like Doomsday looking version of her."
Yep.
Oh dear.
Well, and I like here the pathos too of the old Waller, right? Like in this programming, what did she say? It's like 20
years.
How many years? 20 years goes by in 20 hours. But so to the Brainiac Queen, Waller is aged, and it adds like a humanity to the Brainiac Queen that she thinks she's doing this all for mom.
Yeah, this is like genuinely one of the best things Williamson's written in such a long time, and I almost wonder if the fact that he just has to get one point across to set up something in the event like is helping, because Wade's given him a Bible and said this is where these characters need to be.
I wish he would find the balance, because I feel like Williamson has good ideas that other people can jump off of, or he can jump onto other people's ideas. When they're fully just him and he can just go off on it, that's where it gets murky. Almost he gets too excited to do everything,
Murky is a very kind word for that, Matt. A very kind word.
Yes, I was being nice. But knowing that Wade is like, hey, I need Brainiac Queen to have like this loyalty to Waller, and I need it to happen like this for the sake of the story or whatever. And Williamson going, oh yeah, no, I got you. And I like that it ends, because I read the Superman stuff first. That's what I jumped on with. So the fact that this starts up as that issue ends, with the ship that looks like it's leaving Krypton and stuff, I thought that was very clever. So, you can jump from one to the other.
Amanda Waller, I mean, it even looks like they're staying at a farmhouse in this like fake memory. This is basically this kid's Kent farm. And Waller's her man Pa Kent.
Yeah, well, that's also the Sanctuary House, which pays off threads from Green Arrow, where that's what the Sanctuary place looked like. We know that she used the Sanctuary technology here to reprogram the Brainiac Queen, too. So, like, it's making all these pieces fit that, at least that I've been reading through Green Arrow and all these other books, and so to see when that farmhouse showed up, I was like, oh, not only does it resemble the Kent house, but that's also the Sanctuary house that I know people have gone out of their way to forget about, but it's here now.
Yeah,
it's also part of that.
I mean, I'd happily forget about it, but to be fair,
Yes.
the reason why the Sanctuary House looks like the Kent farm is because that was the point at the time.
Yes.
So it still just
Right.
ultimately just looks like the Kent house.
True, but the fact that that's that she went out of her way to go get the sanctuary thing, it wasn't just a power grab. There's a purpose, and it feels like she's going to try to reprogram people, things, whatever. So it's like now when she rips the powers from the heroes that we've seen in the previews or whatever, that leads to absolute power. Is she adding this stuff to these Amazo robots, right? Because we know the Zernar failsafe, that kind of failed because it couldn't coexist, but failsafe, as we know, is just failsafe, right? It doesn't have the Bruce trauma of Zernar.
You mean this failsafe she's using?
Yes.
Yes.
Right.
I assume there's no Zuranar in there, yes.
Right. So I'm wondering, too, if now she's going to, manage through some of these Amazobots. So like the Flash one has, the death of Iris West or whatever the trauma, not Iris, the death of all the Wally stuff that caused the story that we don't talk about. I wonder if that's going to get programmed into these Amazo robots, and that's where it's going to go. That's how it forms them. And this was just the Brainiac Queen was just the prototype going forward.
Yeah. So the issue ends with Waller like getting up out of like a VR chair and being like, okay, that was a successful 20-hour like thing, and then Brainiac Queen comes walking in. Looking better than she did in the Superman books because she's got like a cloak on now and she doesn't have that big bulky look. She's just the skinny version. But she's like, yes, mother, let's save the world. And Waller's like, of course, my dear. So, I think the middle story and the last story do a good job of setting up some excitement for the event. I don't know if I like any of them quite as much as that other story we had, and like, was it the Free Comic Book Day thing? Maybe.
Yes.
We got the setup for all this, but I do think these two stories did a good job. I think the Dreamer one's a bit more murky because like I say, I really didn't like this idea that like the main part of it felt like it happened before the story started, and it felt like it was thrown away, like something we spent a whole arc reading about. So, that was a bit of a shame, but. These other two stories I think did a decent job. I don't think this is going to end up being super essential reading, but knowing how Waller's programmed the Brainiac Queen for her own bidding is interesting. It kind of makes me think that the Brainiac Queen in the Superman books only existed because this was going to be a thing here. And I'm not saying that that's on anyone necessarily, because I don't think that would have been forced on Williamson. I think this is an example, I think, of, okay, the person at the center, in this case Mark Waid, has laid out what the event's going to be, and obviously he's talked it over with the other people who are writing other books, and they're all going to try and incorporate some elements of it and whatever. I think this is a case of, I'm probably going to like this event, I'm probably going to like what Mark Waid does with it, but there's no accounting for the fact that people writing other books tying into it are going to be of varying quality, depending on who you like out of those writers. And so I think just, Williamson is just never going to be that exciting to me. But I mean, this story was fine though. I can't fault this. Conceptually, this was fine.
When he has a focus, this stuff is a pleasure to read.
Or when he only has like 8-10 pages, he can't.
That could be too.
He doesn't have enough time to screw it up.
That's true. But I also enjoyed the majority of his Robin run, where it was very focused on Robin and the tournament and all that other stuff.
Sure.
So it is possible. I just, but yeah, I was, not that I was shocked, but the back two, after that first story, I was like, oh man, it's another one of these, extra, lead-in things.
Yeah,
the back two stories, I feel, made it worth the purchase.
I was worried with that first story that I was going to get to the end of this and feel like it was just one of those anthology books that I was mad that I spent time reading. Luckily, the other two, it led with its weakest story, and that was the strangest part of it, I thought. But regardless, not bad. I guess we'll rate this. I know we didn't really talk about the art much because the art was different in all three stories, but what are you giving Absolute Power Ground Zero?
So, because it was a mixed bag, and it's up and down, I'm going to give this a 6.5.
Yeah. I actually think I'm going to go. I'm going to go with a 7 because I think the middle story and the backstory do enough to add a little bit some layers to what's coming up in the event, but the first story obviously is the blemishes bringing it down. So I'll go 7. I'm feeling generous, I guess.